When I use the word mysticism, I'm referring to a kind of experience, a kind of, shall we say, a state of consciousness. It's something that simply happens, and it's been recorded as far back in time as we have any recording at all. That their ordinary sense of individuality, of personal identity, is transcended. And the individual suddenly feels an experience that I find myself to be of one and the same nature or identity as the world outside me. In other words, I suddenly feel no longer a stranger in the world, but as if the external world were my own body. A very overwhelming feeling that everything that happens, everything I have ever done, everything anybody else has ever done, was part of our harmonious design. And it includes this element of feeling the total harmoniousness of everything. And it stands as, actually, the foundation for most of mankind's profound philosophical, mystical, metaphysical, and religious ideas. That the meaning of being alive is just being alive. That's what we're all here for. And it's so plain, and it's so obvious, and so simple. And yet here is everybody rushing around in a great panic, as if it were necessary for them to achieve something beyond all that. And the funny thing is, they're not quite sure what it is. There is a dimension, a sense in which their pursuit is magnificent. And our so-called real life is, from the position of the mystic, an extension of the same thing. Because, you see, he is the person who suddenly has realized that the game is a game. You see, throughout the all-known history of religion, the mystics have been suspect, insofar as religions have been the upholders of moral rules. But when into the domain of religion there appears the mystical experience, then the priests are very, very disturbed. Now you see, this has characteristically, through the ages, been the attitude of priesthoods, of the guardians of law and order, or as they say in the Episcopal Church, everything should be done decently and in order. The guardians of this kind of thing have always been afraid of the spontaneous manifestations of the Spirit. That's the kind of real understanding that we have to have. From this standpoint, we can perhaps understand something about the deep relationship between morals and mysticism. If we go back, you see, to the experience that I described as mystical, we see that it is the vision of the rightness, the harmoniousness of everything that you are from one moment to another. That, in other words, human behavior, its ups and its downs, is no different in principle from the behavior of the clouds, or of the wind, or of dancing flames in the fireplace. Ultimately, it is the same with human beings. We are just as much a part of the natural order as flames in the fire or stars in the sky. So then, in the metaphysical sphere, the mystic is the one who feels that everything that happens is in some way harmonious, is in some way right, is in some way an integral part of the universe. Now, when we transplant or translate that into the moral sphere, the sphere of human conduct, the equivalent is this: there are no wrong feelings. But if, for a change, we would allow our feelings and look upon their comings and goings as something as beautiful and as natural and necessary as changes in the weather, the going of night and day, and of the four seasons. We would be at peace with ourselves. So I think this is the most releasing thing that anybody can possibly understand, that your inner feeling is never wrong. For you see, when a person comes to himself, he comes to be one with his own feeling. And that is the only way of being in a position to control it. It is in exactly this way that the sailor always keeps the wind in his sails. Whether he wants to sail with the wind or whether he wants to sail against the wind, he always uses the wind. He never denies the wind. Well, and it's exactly that same sense that a person has to keep going with his own feeling. Whether he wants to act as the feeling obviously suggests or act in a different way, he has to keep the feeling with him, because that's his own essential self. So, to sum up, what the mystic primarily feels is the divinity, the glory of whatever is. But the expression, the recognition, the acceptance of what is honestly felt is the moral equivalent of the vision that whatever exists is a manifestation of the divine. So that's the mystic's point of view.